How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to another episode of Headcases, and today's guest is a friend of mine, and I'm super excited about this one. He is a global award-winning colorist and stylist. He was the global artistic director for Matrix. He went on to form his own production company, CBC Productions. Little hint there. He and his team are in constant demand to deliver spellbinding artistic main stage performances, technical trainings, brand collaborations, and artist mentoring. From advertising, beauty, fashion, and educational campaigns, his work has graced the covers of pages of publications of international magazines around the globe. He ventured into photography, becoming an internationally recognized photographer, capturing not only his work, but that of exceptional artists in the industry. He also launched his own magazine, Collective Inked, and that's INKD, very clever. With his drive and vision, he is undeniably one of the most progressive hairstylists of our time, and I'm pleased to call him friend. So let's get into this week's head case, Chrystofer Benson. Mr. Benson, it seems like it's been forever. You were one of my very first people that I wanted to have on this podcast, in between your schedule, which is insane, and mine. We finally got it put together. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, Chris, thanks for being here. I know how busy you are, and it's just been a real pleasure, and I can't wait to have this chat together with you.
Oh, I appreciate that. And you're so cute. You're like, am I bugging you? No, you're never bugging me. Are you kidding me? When I get a text or something from you, it's endearing. So I'm happy to be here. Always a good conversation with you, my friend.
Yeah, that's good. Listen, I just anecdotally, I don't even know what that word means, but if it sounds really kind of cool that I might know a word that's bigger than two syllables. However, I think the last time that you and I connected was at Mark Woolley's Legend in LA, and it was great to see you. And just for everybody listening, when it was inside this bar. This is an event that Mark Woolley did that honored all of the legends that they had in our industry, and obviously it wasn't rocket science to see that your name was going to be there on the very forefront and the top of the list. So, Chris, congrats on being in that category of being one of the legends in North America, and the world, as far as I'm concerned. But it was interesting for those of you that are listening or watching right now. It was I had an Uber drop me off at the address where this thing was, and I was I thought there was going to be this big frontal area, and I couldn't find it. I'm going, oh my God, please tell me I didn't copy in the wrong address. And I'm walking around looking like an idiot, actually looking like a New York tourist, where I'm even though I'm in LA, because I'm looking up for signs and looking around in the building. And all of a sudden I hear this Baran, and I'm looking around, and Chrystofer is in the doorway of this pub bar that we have this thing at, and I'm sure I would have walked on for a couple blocks if you hadn't yelled out my name.
I had to grab a few of our people, because we did the same thing though. Honestly, Chris, like we walked by it, I was like, wait a minute, I think it's right here. Yeah. So yeah, it was an incredible. Just honestly, and thank you for the very kind words. That means the world to me. Your talent is like mind blowing to me over the years of consistency, and I want you to hear that word that I use. Yeah. You've been so incredibly consistent in always raising your game. But that was a night for me that I got to I've explained so many different people that have meant something to me or have impacted me or have judged competitions of mine that I've been in or mentors. And to see, that all those people in that room that night, like I was pinching myself. I was like nudging my wife, going, "You fucking kidding me right now? Who's in this room?"
Yeah.
It was insane. To be, I had a great conversation with Ira Pope Sage, and he's like, "Chris, like this is the night we get to actually honor ourselves."
Yeah.
And he's like, to be a part of this is insane. And I was like, yeah, it's like surreal. It's honestly surreal. I don't know, Chris. It's interesting because I think we're a generation, and I see that because it was like you had the Anthony Boscolos, the Robert Lapettas, the Trevor Sorby's, God rest his soul, and those people that were such powerhouse, superstar, impact players and creators that I think you can follow lineage down through all of us at some point from them. Vidal Sassoon, another one, obviously, but to see some of those players in the room and to be in that same conversation was like surreal. Like I was pitching myself. I'm like, this is nuts, man.
We were talking just before we got we started recording, and I was talking about doing that interview with Mark Woolley. Just I think it was yesterday or the day before, and in there I talked to him about how important what he did in recognizing all the people in our industry for climbing to whatever degree of success that they want to live in that. Because I think that's a personal thing. Everybody can say you're successful, but your degree of success is based on how you deal with that yourself. And but what I congratulated him on was something that I don't even think that he thought about was you go through this stretch, and we've all had our ups and downs, and the point is that is when somebody else from another country puts this together and excuse me, and adds your name to this, and you see Chrystofer Benson in there, and you see the pictures of you that you see in that that U.S. flag, and the what's the word I'm looking for? Just it vindicates yourself, and it gives you this. Judas, you think, did I actually arrive? How did that? What was the feeling? What was your first feeling? I'd want a two-parter on this. When you got the notice that said, "Hey, we want you on this," that's number one, and then number two, when you finally saw the image, what was your feelings?
I mean, I and it's probably the same thing for you. People hit me up about weird shit all the time. So I was kind of like, what is this and what are you doing? And I think as I'm sure your team is, they're protective and like, we need to check this out. What is it? And then who's involved? And so obviously we figured out who was involved, and Mark's a great guy. And so I didn't really know exactly what it was completely until it was honestly done. And then I don't know, Chris, like I take a huge pride in flying the flag for the US. There's like,
and I kind of hit a chord there with you, didn't it?
Yeah. I think there's so much talent in the US that doesn't get recognized for what it did. And there's very few opportunities that we truly get that we can showcase that. And I think there's, ones that have definitely done that. I think opening up British Hairdressing Awards for international categories, other awards for international categories, let you put yourself up against the world. I take a great pride in what we do for the US and what we do for this industry, what we do for this world. But it was pretty special. I think it's one of those things that you go, did I really make it on there? Yeah. You blow the picture up to make sure that you're actually on the fucking thing. No, honestly, Chris, you're like, did it? Like, did I really get on there?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't care how many awards I've won or what successes I've had. There's still a humility for me that when things like that get honored or, I think as you kind of say, vindicated, or people don't have to do that. I mean, Mark didn't have to do any of that.
Right.
And chose, and I say that word because it is a choice and it is work. And to choose to do that, for that recognition for, what he did in the UK, what he's done in Canada, and what he did here was an incredibly special thing. And I don't know if he completely understands the magnitude of what it's done for people,
Yeah. It's, I mean, I would say with the old gray hair that I have on my face and my head, some of it's getting back farther than I'd like it to. However, when the word arrived came up, I mean, you can have all sorts of things that you've worked for all your life. And, and I am throwing this out as a huge compliment to you, and I'm not making it light. For anybody who, and I know this isn't meant to embarrass. This is meant to really put a pinpoint on what you just said is about the awards and the work, et cetera, is that if anybody is, I would just go on Chrystofer's site, and I know it was your team that made you put that stuff up about the wins, et cetera, that you've had. I don't know, there maybe is, but I don't think I know of anybody. When I looked at that list, when it listed your awards, I went on for 2 frickin' pages. And I don't know of anybody that has had that, been in the finals, been a winner of in so many, not only North American, but international awards. I brought my wife Rita over and I said, look at this. I don't know of many people that have that much. I mean, I've kidded you all along that I think that they shouldn't be naming it the North American Hairdressing Awards. It should be the Chrystofer Benson North American Awards, because you seem to have won. You're either a nominee or winning every damn time that thing is up there. And I think that speaks to exactly what you were talking about how you spent a lot of your career, yes, doing a lot of work, but it's part of it is just showing, look at our American work. Look at what happens here. And I think that speaks volumes to you.
I appreciate that, Chris. I really do. Yeah. The awards are, it's an interesting thing because you know the level you're competing against because of the people that are in the categories, but you're competing against yourself, and I think year after year you have to make personal decisions on what things you want to do and why you're doing them. And I mean, is it great to have a trophy? Sure. I think there's a lot of learning lessons in the process. So many more, I think for me, more of my learns, unfortunately, were probably in what people consider failures or losses. I would consider, I never have to do this again. And, it's what you do with it. I mean, I think if you talk to people long enough, everybody's been through shit, and you can focus on that. Or, you can wake up in the morning and go, I'm still here, and there's clearly a reason, and get your shit together and get out of bed and fucking do something with it. Or, what are you doing? And why aren't you?
You brought up an interesting point there.
Get your shit together, Benson. I have to.
Well, listen, first of all, for all those successes, et cetera, and failures, here's to you. I've got my cup of tea and you've got your coffee or whatever's going on in there. We won't tell them what's really in it, but.
Oh, it's my coffee for sure.
Well, it's my tea. I wish it was coffee. Excuse me. I wish it was coffee, but that's another story for another time. But here's what I've noticed about we have a lot of similarities besides both of our initials are CB and so on. But I know that I'm addicted to teaching. I had with my business coach, who's sometimes my counselor, et cetera. And we finally figured out I'm addicted to teaching. Mm-hmm. And I know you are too, but here's my question to you. Are you addicted to competing?
I think for me, it's not an addiction, it's an outlet
Got it.
and I think that it's changed truly. I think there was a time where it was a proving factor for myself and where can sit in the world and the eyes of the world. And I think when you have defeat, you have to also go, so where do you still sit?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to take that long look and go, okay, so you didn't take the trophy home. Are you still the same person when you walked in this room tonight?
Yeah.
So I think that, there's a lot of mental bullshit for me. And I don't know what it is for anyone else, but that I put myself through and go through in the process of, winding the shoot up, getting the models all the way to walking in the room that night. So it's, I think, just as much mental as it is physical.
Yeah.
But it's what you also do with it, and I think it's the growth that you can have from it. And I mean, I have many trophies. Sometimes I look at those trophies and go, "Do you know how many things I've missed in just with life and family?"
Yeah.
Because I've spent time doing that.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. And I think it's, again, what you do with it. But there's times where I look at that stuff and go, wow, yes, it's amazing. And yeah, what I've done, it's a lot of sacrifice. And I don't think everybody always understands that part of it.
Yeah.
And for me, sometimes that is the pain, is just knowing you're so driven.
Yeah.
You have to get it out of you creatively as creatives. And I don't think everybody understands that. I think, and I don't think everybody around you, your friends that are not that way, I don't think completely understand that. And while they think they're supportive, I don't think until it starts blowing up, then they start to go, oh, now I see why you're doing all this and the sacrifices and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, they're great to have, but I think they're also a reflection sometimes. I think, especially for during COVID, when everything just went flat.
Yeah.
That was a long look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Good, bad,
It's
and
interesting.
yeah, good with what you see.
Yeah. Because I don't think that people realize that, and you had a great word there that you had driven, and maybe that's a better word than addicted. But when you do that, there's shit you got to give up.
Yeah.
It's like, and because you mentioned about the friends who understand, but then there's also the friends who maybe aren't friends anymore, simply because, well, they're not around, and I keep inviting you, and you don't come because you're on the road, and then they just stop calling, And I go through. I think when I was your age, you young whippersnapper, when I. But
We're
I
not
know
that far apart.
Well, your hair color is better than mine then.
As much as I like to think I was the young one in the room, I'm definitely not anymore. I don't know when that changed or how that changed, but I'm definitely not anymore.
But it's there is that stuff that you have to give up if you do want to climb to that level of success. I mean, I'm not a good golfer. I play more whack-dam than golf. But but I watch golf and I see these people that are like yesterday they were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then the next weekend they're competing in Hawaii, and and I short of having all your family with you if they can, there is stuff you have to give up if you choose to be driven. And I know that. I mean, to me, I've talked about this several times with my kids. Is when I was on the road all the time, it was. I missed out on all that stuff, the games, the school conferences, the things that I missed out on. And there was lots of pain in that for me too. And I talked about that with my kids, and they, whether they were placating me or not, one of which was the director of this show and listening in the background. But, they had to give up stuff because of the drive that we have. And I'll never forget when Rita and when I first started going on the road, Rita, my wife, I always say Rita, my first wife, that keeps her on her toes. it's more the other way around, but we'll let that joke lie. But I remember I said that talked about having to be on the road all the time, and we made a conscious decision that said, look, if we want to have the life that we want to have, there are certain things that we have to do, and certain things we're going to have to give up now, so we can have a greater good on the other side.
Later.
And so, to, wrap kind of this thing up that we've had, that where it is driven, whether it's an addiction or driven or whatever the name that you want to put on it, there is good, So if you had to tell somebody, like if you got like I know you have this wonderful network of a collective that you put together. And if people watch that and they're watching you and your team on stage, and you're always so gracious in making sure that other people get spotlight as well. And somebody said, I wanted to start on this journey. What would you tell them?
I think you can do anything you want to do. I think it starts between your head, and I think that's where it ends. I think there's a lot of outside sources that can be great. I think there's a lot of outside sources that can be really detrimental. And I think right now the tough part is we're in a really driven instant gratification society that, unfortunately, I don't think sometimes people consider what the long term is and makes decisions based on that instant gratification.
Yeah.
I think everybody wants the instant, but I also think the long haul is in, thinking about what is this going to do in the bigger picture. I think people and the world in some senses is losing sight of that.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, because we've had people that come up and just ask, and it's just about, it's just about, here's what I have is, Chrystofer, I have a hope that I think that I know where you're going with this, and I see that it's out there with instant gratification. And I'm hoping that there is people that are still out there like yourself who are willing to put in the time and the energy, and because yes, it is about the award. Yes, it can be about the gratification that you get from it. But it's also about how we change the lives of the people that are around us, and you can't necessarily do that just with one little quick video. It's like when you can have somebody walk up to you, as I know thousands have walked up to you, Chrystofer, and have said, and you don't know who the hell they are, never seen them before, or can't quite recollect what, where, or why. And they come up to you and they said, you changed my life. And I think that really is part of and the reason why we do what we do.
No question. That's, for me, better than any award.
Yeah.
Teaching something, somebody, sharing something and watching somebody take it and do something greater than what I've done or what they thought they could do. I think for me is far more rewarding than an award.
Yeah. Bingo. Well, let's bring it way back to the beginning, because we know what you've done. We know where you are right now. But how did you get, what's your hair story? How did you get into hair? What was something you always wanted to do? Did they just drop you on the planet and you said, okay, I'm going to do hair? Or was there a bunch of other things and then it came into hair? What was it?
Yeah. I grew up in a single family. My mother, my dad was never really in the picture. And so I grew up in my grandparents' house. My grandfather was a chiropractor. My grandmother was a teacher. And I had uncles and aunts that were hairdressers. And later I ended up meeting my grandfather on my father's side, and he was a barber.
Wow.
So I'm actually a third generation, but honestly, Chris, I grew up around it. I was always in my uncle's shops and thought it was the coolest thing. My mom reminded me as I got into hair and later that, yeah, no, you were playing with hair when, junior high and high school and whatever, which I didn't really remember because the fascination wasn't really there. It was really more, I think the girls had the hair and, there was an attraction. So that was easy. But no, my grandfather, I moved away from home on my 18th birthday down to Vegas, which is, apparently what you do when you're 18, because you're not supposed to be doing anything in Vegas until you're 21. So I think more just to get out of Utah and kind of just be. And my grandfather, who had a huge helping hand in raising me, had a heart attack. Obviously, I came home, and as he sat in his hospital bed, he just said, "What do you think about coming home and going to school?" And I was like, "School for what?" And honestly, I wanted to be a criminal lawyer, but by the time I got out of high school, I hated school so bad, and just the way people taught and the lack of engaging realness.
Yep.
More textbook teaching, that I was just disenchanted. And so he grew up in the Depression era, and his whole selling point was, if nothing else, it's a trade. And he said, do me this one favor and at least get a trade that I know, if nothing else, you can fall back on that.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, honestly, I laughed in his face, Chris, which we, laughed later, but I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? And he said, no. And I went and checked it out of respect for him. And 2 weeks later was back in beauty school. And yeah, the first 6 months, I really didn't have an interest, and then went to a competition that one of my uncles had won, and everybody was, you could hear the whispers, it's the next generation Benson and whatever. And I had my ass handed to me, and it was probably the best thing that happened, because after that, I caught fire. I was like, that ain't happening twice. And of course, it's happened many, 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 many times since then. And, I've lost many more times than I've won, but I've learned and I've grown, and it's, made me who I am. And I think that it's something that keeps me challenged and driven. And you can't win everything. You shouldn't win everything. And I'm also, if I'm in a finals and there's something that's better and should win that night, I'm the first person to say, we'll say that should win. Yeah, I have no problem with that, because there's times that has happened, and there's other things that were better that night. And that's what you do, and putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And I love it. And you've also coached people along in awards, and they've been in awards there and won. And that's when I really took my hat off to you, is to coach people, shoot their stuff, and then push them on to greatness, and then applaud them when you're done. I think that's nothing. I've always said to people around me that, the anytime you have a teacher, the best reward is when the teacher when the student surpasses the teacher. And I think that's a motto more people should have nowadays, about passing on greatness, passing on your knowledge, so that other people, and that's the way our whole industry is going to grow. The only way we're going to do it is the people that were there help to mentor and help to teach other people about what they need to do.
Yeah, there's, it's funny because you say that, because Braden, I think, is a crazy cool example of that. When, me and him just outside talking one day, and started talking to the point of, hey, why don't we, would you shoot my stuff? And, and this guy just went and won Masters.
Yeah.
With me in the category. And man, Chris, I couldn't be prouder of having any part of his vision and seeing it through. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible to watch that happen and applaud them.
Yeah.
And I say, I think, would a trophy be better sitting on my shelf, or would that experience that you just can never, ever put a price on, walking somebody through, having that kind of trust with each other, and watching him be able to accomplish that was priceless.
Absolutely wonderful. So listen, I know that we've been talking a lot about the awards, etc. But I want to take you back when you started with your hair story. So you took your school. What did you work in? Was it your uncle's school? Did you automatically go into a salon? Did you go into
Sure.
that
Yeah.
family salon? How did it branch out to there and eventually get to where you're leading other companies?
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. It was, I mean, I think the competition stuff opened up, my eyes to, I think it's what you're exposed to, right? I think you're a product of really what you get exposed to in life. And I think having people that had done stuff like that um, put me in a different, what is all this? What do you mean you competed in hair? So that
Yeah.
was something. Fashion had to be wrapped around it. So that was something. Makeup had to be wrapped around it. So that was something. Photos then became wrapped into it. Um, so all of those things from a young, in school age, I was already, you know, thinking about and wrapping the package. And for me, that was super enticing. But, so I got heavy into the competition. The thing about competition is you practice one thing over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
And, God forbid it doesn't hit that day when you're competing. That's a sad day. So, and that was with the live model and so forth back in those days. And that was amazing to do. And then I watched the stages happening, and I remember seeing Trevor Sorby on stage and watching people doing multifaceted models with collections, and it just like that became a very different thing for me. And then honestly, I stopped competing for a long time until it became more about photos and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
started finding a little bit different interest in that aspect. And so then competition became something that I found interest again. And then obviously photography and shooting with different photographers, but then shooting my stuff uh, with my wife, and that was a bucket list for me. So now to be able to do that and help other people is amazing. I mean, to watch A-Rod, and take him through that process, win Barber of the Year last year, watch Braden win Master of the Year was just wild. I mean, just wild.
I bet we have something in common. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate paying for something that I'm not using. I hate working in a small, cramped box. Yet, I love working in a cool salon that impresses my clients, and I love the culture and synergy of a team while enjoying the freedom of being my own boss. You too? What if all that was available to you at the salon you rent from? Meet Artist on Go, a game-changing way to rent salon space. With Artist on Go, you only pay for the time you're behind the chair. You can choose a salon that fits your vibe, location, and amenities. With Artist on Go, you're a part of a stylist community, not hustling alone. Plus, you get to enjoy perks like clean towels and back bar supplies. Check out Artist on Go, built for stylists serious about their clients and growing their brand without the hassles of managing a space. Here's the kicker. You can save more than 50% on your rent. To find out more, go to bit.ly/artistongocb. That's bit.ly/artistongocb. So you worked your way through. You went through the salon system, and then how was it? So let's talk on the education side. How was it? Where did that? What was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably a year out of school, and they were doing some holiday thing at a mall, and like I knew a lot of the distributors and stuff from just competing and just networking. And somebody was like, "Well, why don't you come and do this?" And honestly, Chris, like after the years of facilitation and stuff that I've had and gone through and helped, other people learn facilitation, I had no business being on that stage whatsoever in my life. It was just laughable. But, somebody saw something and thought I had a big enough mouth that and courageous enough to do it. But I look back on that and laugh because, man, it's definitely a different approach to things now. but that's where honestly it started. And funny enough, doing holiday hair, which, if you look at the work I do now, is pretty hilarious that I would be doing holiday hair. Not that I can't, but it's just not really my thing or what I'm known for. So yeah, and then as I got into the competitions and started going out nationally, I started seeing stages and I started seeing different brands that were attracting. And for me, I saw some just different people that I thought were incredibly talented. And so I spent 10 years working for Joico and grew up in their ranks up to their international global team. And then had an incredible offer from L'Oreal and Matrix, as you know, and came and opened the Global Academy and ran that as the lead cutter. And it's funny how people perceive you because nobody really knew I did color. And then we started winning Nahas for hair color, and people were kind of like, what is going on here? I thought this was our cutter. So I think the good message there was don't let things pigeon you to just one thing, and be as broad as you can, because as broad as that was for me, opened up a lot of other doors, whether I was cutting for Matrix and L'Oreal or coloring, and both got me in different great spots to be able to help things along. So, and it was an amazing ride.
So I want just a couple questions first, and because I want to talk a little bit about your collective that you have, but just before I go there, what people that have affected you in your life, mentors, people that either said something to you, did somebody say something to you that really pushed you in an area, and if you had to talk to those people now, and you were to say something to them now, number one, who would they be, and what would you say to them?
It's a pretty vast list that honestly, Chris, it's not even just in hair. It's like I think it's I think a few for me are different teachers growing up. The ones that really were engaging were, I think, said different things to me at different points. So I mean, I've had people that I've had conversations on the street that I've never known in my life that have impacted my life just because they've said something. And I was, because I don't think anything happens by chance. I think, things happen for a reason. I think conversations happen for a reason. So it's what you take from it. And, the other thing for me is I've also been a study of what things don't I want to be like? What things don't I want to be treated like? What do I not want to treat somebody like? Because that's how I was treated. And that's why I say I think our generation was a little different. I think our generation is a lot more approachable, take them under your wing. Let's help you. Let's make you better. Let's shine a light on you. Whereas, in some senses, us coming up, that's absolutely not how it was. It was shut up, sit down, do that over there. And it's probably wrong, even if it's right, just to, fuck your head up and, kind of make you come up in the ranks of earning your stripes. I'm sure you would know those terms. And I think there is an earning your stripes, but I also think there's a kind way you can do it and an encouraging way you can do it, and an honest feedback, sure. But I also think there's a loving way you can do it I personally have found over the years now that you get far more out of people when you can give positive feedback, and then also constructive that they can learn from, and speak from your experience of that. You know what I mean? And thankfully I have enough years under my belt now that I can go, listen, I can see where this is going, and let me save you a little time. Maybe let me save you some effort. Furthermore, God, if I can save you some money too, then this is going to be amazing. So I think that's really just more of it is humbling yourself enough to go, I can see, this because I've done some of this. I've lived it, and be vulnerable enough to go, I don't think this is going to turn out in a good way. And I'd love to, share my experience, and you can do what you would like with it.
Yeah. It is, because what I like about what you just said, that and what I got from it was that you don't make the person the problem, like that you're the bad thing. It's the behavior or the way that you're doing something that was make the problem, not the person the problem.
Yeah.
To me, it was.
Well, and I think it goes, I think that's sometimes in society, I don't like this person because they did me wrong. So I don't want any of my friends to not like them either. Well, if, you had an issue with them, that doesn't mean everybody has to have an issue with them. I think we need to deal with people based on, how you've been treated by them and how you have been, experienced with each other. And, a perfect example, I think that is one of my mentors, John Rawson. Speaking of mentors, he's an incredible photographer. He and I spoke for many years back and forth to try and figure out how to finally shoot something. And we did, and it was magic from the moment we hit, and won countless of awards around the globe together. And I'm just super indebted. But it was just funny after, getting to know each other and sitting down. He's like, man, I was just warned that you're really tough. And I was like, well, and I kind of laughed because I heard this, and I talked to people, and and I had heard you're somebody that will walk up and touch the hair, and which, I mean, it's all perspective as you work with somebody. But then after working with him, like, I love that he has a hair background and he can point to something and move an errant hair and go here, because he wants the, I know what his intent is. He wants the best end result, right?
Yeah.
But if my ego's like, you can't touch this because it's mine, we're never going to get to the best end result. And so I think it's, perspective on how people see things. And so, and then talking with him, he's like, you just have very high standards. And when people talk, you're tough and you hold a high level, he's like, that's something that's such a blessing to me. He says, but it's interesting how people see it. And I was like, yeah, that is interesting, because I wouldn't necessarily consider myself that. But, do I hold a high standard? Do I hold a high level? Absolutely, because I hold that for myself. And, you want that for other people as well. So, but he's been, we're great friends. And he's been so supportive of, me stepping out. It was just interesting over COVID. It kind of pushed me out of the nest of going from, because we couldn't get him over here to shoot, and I couldn't get over to him to shoot. And I had to shoot my own stuff, or we weren't shooting anything. So, and I remember just sending those first pictures and reluctantly going, okay, John, I need the honest feedback. And that's, that time when you go, do I really want to send this to him and get feedback? But he's been just, a real kind, honest, very honest. I mean, there's times I've walked models up to him on set and he's like, it looked better before you started. And I'm like,
okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have another.
I appreciate that respect, that he cares that much to go. And some people are ready for that, honestly, Chris, and some people are not ready for that.
Yeah.
I think that's different ranges of just understanding where each person is, and trying to meet them at that and what you can best help them with.
What was that? I mean, we got a touch of that transition of doing the hair, setting him in front of the set, of somebody else doing the work, and then now you're forced to shoot it on your own. And you gave us a little taste of what that was like at the beginning, but what was it? What was had you had any experience other than watching somebody with a camera before that? Did you know anything about a camera?
We were definitely shooting, but I think there's, shooting at the level of John Rawson. which is what I was accustomed to and spoiled at. And and then I'm looking at my team and my wife, and I'm like, I really don't know how we're going to do this. And I mean, when the way things were locked down, even getting photographers in the US to get everybody in a space was just not happening. So it just, I put it on my shoulders with her support and guidance, and because I wanted, if this turned out to be a shit show, then I wanted to take the heat for it and not blame somebody else, to be really fair. And I didn't want to put that pressure on anybody, although we all took that pressure together. There's no question, but there's no way I would have walked through that without, her guidance and her experience, because like I've cut down time for her and, a hair side, she's cut down time for me in a photography side that has been an amazing thing. So to be able to have that for each other has been incredible, because it's trust, and knowing that if you don't have that experience, that you have somebody there that you trust to go, I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but this is what I want to accomplish. And so that's where we've really become a good team, to be able to balance that for each other. And obviously that's been home to do many things and have great success. But yeah, that first one was, it was scary. It was like being pushed out of the nest by yourself, because you have to, and then and then send it to your mentor who, wants to be there as well, going, I didn't know you were even doing this. But yeah, let me tell you how shitty these photos look.
Well, so did you have to reshoot, or did you
No,
reshoot them, or
I
just
think it was
well,
really,
okay, thank you, but I paid this all this
no,
money, and
it
now I'm
wasn't a
going to enter them
reshoot. It
anyway.
was a regroup. I think it was just honestly the finishes and pushing things in lighting wise to enhance and not look flat. And I think that's, for me, it was never trying to get the essence, because I always knew what I wanted to get. I think from a hair perspective, I think that's almost, for us, sometimes harder to teach the photographer. No, really, this is the angle I want you to get and the shine line I want you to get, or whatever it is. But I think it was more getting the lighting and stuff, I think, where I was confident with it and confident with the team that we did it with. And now that's very different.
And your wife does this, a lot of the styling. She does the styling for your shoots, doesn't she?
Yeah, we style a lot of it together. But I mean, on set, there's no question she's like it's just, I mean, honestly, Chris, it's built from just trust of spending so much time together and knowing the level that we want to portray it at. And then we spend a ton of time ahead of time. I mean, you know how production works.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much of it's up front to make that day go smoother. And so, yeah, we spend a lot of time putting this stuff together and then, watching her put the final touch on it. No question.
Yeah. I want to kind of shift it back now, because you went from there where you did it on your own, and now you've got a collective that you put together where you guys do production, you go and do shows, etc., and you're shining again light on other people on your stage at the same time. But I have to tell you this is, when I went on your site and I was looking at your CBC, Chrystofer Benson Collective logo is amazing. And I'm sure, knowing your mind, you probably thought about this before, but the way, and I'm going to invite people to go on his site and see it, just if nothing else, just to look at the logo, so you know what I'm talking about, and then obviously go through all his work. But what I love the most about the CBC, if you can imagine the C facing the normal way, and then the B facing the normal way, and the last C turned around, at first I went, is that a D? And then I went, no, if you go back, you can look at it. But here's the part that I found super interesting, is the negative space in the logo is a triangle facing to the right and a triangle facing to the left. And to me, that was so, what's the word I'm looking for, symbolic of your work. Because in all your work, and let me give a little bit more to that analogy, the triangles are like the symbols that you would see enter on any audio playback device where it's forward or reverse. And to me, that's where I think it was so symbolic of the style of work that you do, because you have this amazing ability to take the work that you're doing in the simplest one, like the blue bob that you have on your front page. It's a bob, but it's so, just the way that it's styled, the way that it's shot, it's simple, it's foundational, but you've turned up the volume on a simple technique and made it look starting towards the avant-garde. And you have this an incredible way of doing avant-garde, which sometimes I hate what people do avant-garde, and I call it kitchen sink theory, and they just throw everything at it. And you don't.
Just that one more thing.
You pick one simple thing in your avant-garde work, and you turn down some of the avant-garde, and it makes it more emphatic. So I just thought, number one, kudos to your work. Number two is that logo, as I just thought was terrific.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, and I don't even know if you know this, but like when you started getting your production thing together and Sammy started doing his tools and, Chris Sorby started doing some of her stuff. I mean, obviously we were in a pretty strong parallel in Matrix and the Redken world. And so, it was things like that, and just watching and learning. You got to set yourself up bigger than just what's happening in this moment with what you're doing for this brand at that time. And so, did I want another salon? And I remember, a good friend of mine, after winning 2 Nahas one night, they were like, cool, so what are you gonna do now? Open a salon? And I was like, no, definitely not that. And that's really kind of how CBC was thought of, because while the CB logo of me, Chrystofer Benson, the artist, is always going to do what I am going to do because I still have aspirations and goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's CBC was really, how do you put a collective together? And at the time, Chris, there was times where I would have killed to be on stage with you or Sam, or at different points, and that just wasn't at that time something that was okay or thought of or looked at as a positive. And I think that has really changed. And I'm very proud of CBC from just that aspect, that we kind of shattered that in the industry and started, cross-pollinating and allowing it to be okay, and it not being having to be brand specific, but really just about the art. And so, we've watched amazing artists come up. We have some of the young ones that the core team was built around. Corey is the artistic director for Pulp Riot, which I'm incredibly proud of for her. Greta is with the Beta and doing amazing things. Hannah's with Level 3 doing amazing things. So for me, it's cool to watch what the young ones are doing, and then that spawn from that of like the next generation, or the people you bring around to vibe with or collab with, like a Braden, to be able to spend time with them on stage, and then to be able to go through a process like that where he's winning a master's because we built that kind of trust. So yeah, I think the collective for us is a cool thing to be able to create space, and it not be having to be a sales pitch. It's really selling creativity and education and believing in you and what do you want, because you can have anything you want. Is just how bad do you want it, and what are you going to do to put the work in to do it?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Benson, next time that we're together, I want this over several glasses of wine and a good dinner, etc. But I can't wait till you and your lovely lady can get together with us and have some good times. But I'm going to throw to what I call our rapid fire section right now. So just
let me get my people on.
yeah. So just first thing that comes to your brain. Okay. What turns you on in the creative process?
Creating something new.
What stifles it?
Playing with it too long until I feel like I've mastered it.
A thing in your life, the thing in life itself that you love the most.
My people.
And thing in life that you dislike.
My head sometimes.
I know exactly where you're going with that one. Thing that you love most about our industry.
The creativity.
That you dislike.
The level that we're playing at right now.
Interesting. A person that you admire the most.
My wife.
Well, I'm going to take that segment, pull it out there, and I'm going to send that to you as a snippet so that you can send it to her. And every time that she doesn't, you're in the doghouse, you can play that more. You can play that for her. My gift to you.
I might need that.
Your most prized possession.
My knowledge.
A person you wish you could meet.
Banksy.
Oh, yes. Something that people don't know about you.
I'm probably a lot more easygoing than what people ever realize.
A month off. Where would you go? What would you do?
Travel, sad but true, Chris.
Without having to do
I
hair.
like to travel. I mean, I think at some point we would like to do like just get in a motorhome. I think later on in life and just travel and not really have an agenda. Just go see
Love
people.
Something that terrifies you.
Inconsistency and abnormally.
Oh, wow. That was very profound. Mine is spiders. Your favorite curse word?
Fuck, for sure.
And your favorite comfort food?
A good pasta. My wife is an incredible cook.
Something in the industry that you haven't done and you would like to?
I think it'd be great to bring outside, like I think from a perspective of like shooting, I would love to see like Canons and pro photos and Apples have a lot more attention to our industry. I would love to be a caveat of helping shed a light on our industry, because I think we're consuming a massive amount of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're getting the love from just that. It's just one aspect. So I think just broadening the view of how impactful our industry really is.
One do-over, what would you do?
I wouldn't.
Oh, you wouldn't. Okay.
I wouldn't do it. Yeah, sometimes I think it's hard to, but I wouldn't. I've learned. Every experience, as hard as some of them have been for me, you learn from them, you grow from them. So
yeah. What do you think the hardest one was?
I think my head. I think as creative and amazing and wildly expressive as it can be, I think is also as wildly dark as it can be as well in the wrong situation. And that's just something for me. I've always had to temper of, you can swallow up shit and I think that's anybody, Chris. I mean, you talk to somebody long enough, they've all gone through stuff, but I think this is something I've had to learn to. I think it's also, the darkness sometimes I think has also fueled my fire and creatively what I've done too. So I don't think it's a negative. I just think it's what you're doing with it. I think beautiful things have come from it, but I think I'm my own worst enemy, as I think probably most of us are.
Yeah,
there's very few times where somebody could critique something that I probably haven't already cross-sectioned 10 ways to myself, So I think, creativity can be in all directions. So it's what you do.
Yeah. Well, at least you haven't cut off an ear or anything yet. So
no, I haven't done that. Thank God. That's never a thing I'd want to do by any means.
Okay, tomorrow you couldn't do hair or have anything to do with the industry. What would you do?
I love interior design.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I think it's still kind of that form, function, tone, texture. So I think it's that. I love putting things together. I think that for me, the attraction, especially like now collections, stages, stuff like that, where you're not just thinking about just the hair, you're thinking about the videos, the production, the wardrobe, the models, and that for me is enticing. So I think that would definitely be a natural thing for me.
I feel that with you. It's also, and this is nothing that I, as people that are watching, listening right now, these are all prepared questions that we have that we ask every guest that's on here. This is not one of them. But who does the cooking in your house? Who does the cooking?
Chris, there's no question. I once upon a time cooked, and every once in a while I'll crack that kitchen. But what I didn't know, I knew Hannah was an incredible baker. What I didn't know, and the secret weapon, was she's a ridiculously good cook. So she's pretty well taken that kitchen right over. And know your lane, as I like to say, Mr. Baran. Know your lane. There's things that I know my lane in, and when it comes to that, there's no question that is.
So you're on cleanup duty,
and I give her all the praise. There's no question.
All right. So last question. If you had one wish for our industry, what would it be?
We would keep a positivity and and honesty. I think you have to have an honesty to each other, but I think we would keep a creativity going and a positivity, and instead of tearing people down, we're all unique. Yeah. And I think the thing that I found in this industry is my uniqueness, and I think that's something that has been the beauty of me finding this industry is me being unique and celebrating that for myself. It's been empowering for me just personally and as a person. And then obviously that carries over into the industry. But I think we're quick to judge. We're quick to talk. I think we're quick to call it our own. I think there's a lot of people that have come before us that deserve respect in what things they did, the history they've pushed, the inspiration they've put out, the things they've accomplished. And it's not to say that you can't claim what you do, but I think that not enough people know the history of this industry. And it's sad to me a bit, because there's a lot of people that have paved a lot of ways for a lot of us. And, that's obviously what you try to do. That's what I try to do. And I just would hope that people would take a little time to understand each other, respect each other, embrace each other. And if you don't like something, just shut your mouth. If you do like it, nothing wrong with praising it. It doesn't do anything wrong to say somebody else is doing great things. It takes nothing away from any one of us. And I think we need to, get back to the idea that many people can do many great things. There's abundance out there for everybody. And I think if it was looked at like that, we wouldn't be so competitive in that idea of trying to hurt each other, because it's sad to watch. There's a lot of great things, and there's a lot of great people, and there's a lot of great things going on, but we would be better. We would be doing greater things if we did it as a whole.
Here. Well, Chrystofer, I always enjoy my time with you when it's you and I chatting, and I enjoy it when we're here and get to share for the public. And I, excuse me, I thanked you at the beginning for giving up your time, but I want to say it again. Thank you so much. Like I say, and I said in the intro to you that all those great things that you do, but I also consider you a friend. So I just want to say thank you.
My friend, it's been an amazing journey, Chris. You've been somebody that I've watched, and you have been somebody for me that has been just a beacon, and by choice in the way you do things. And you're still doing it, and you're still creating space. So my reflection to you, my friend, is please know that you've been a catapult for me in many, many different ways, of from afar, from close, as somebody that is always valued the time I get to spend with you, Rita, in any conversation, even just if it's in passing. The respect and love is beyond measure, and the care you've always shown, the respect you've always shown, priceless to me, Chris.
Thank you, Chrystofer, and that's mutual.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah, I love you, brother.
Love you too.
I appreciate you.
Thanks again for watching this episode, and if you liked what you heard, remember to smash that like or follow button, depending on your preferred platform. And make sure to share it with anyone you know that might be a fellow Headcase. Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media, with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.